welcome to the Critical Breakdown, the podcast where we start at the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes and we work our way to 100% fresh. I'm Max.
And I'm Scott, and today we're talking Galaxy Quest, rated 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and voted on by you, the listener.
You, the listener.
This has been long in the pipeline.
We thought we'd have all these. Yeah, we thought we'd have all these these little votes like back to back, almost like every two episodes then an election, 2 episodes then one, yada yada. But life finds a way, and we were busy, and
yeah, man,
they'll be more regular moving forward. But
we somehow forgot that like life happens,
Yeah.
We were traveling, family stuff came up, that happens.
To quote Jeff Goldblum in your favorite movie series, Jurassic Park,
there we go.
Life finds a way.
Thanks for that. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. All things considered, doing pretty good, man.
Did you ever see Avengers again?
No, I'm still dying to.
Me neither. Yeah, I'd like to though.
So I wanna squeeze in a second view in there for sure.
Now might be the time to go. I mean, a couple weeks out before Deadpool, you can catch Avengers. Or even better, after Deadpool comes out, everyone's gonna move on to Deadpool. Go see Avengers.
Yeah, just squeeze another little.
You know what? Go see Black Panther finally.
Yeah, finally. See it again finally. I think it comes out. It's out digital this week, and I think it's out physical
Black
next
Panther
week.
is?
I think so.
Man, it's still showing in all the theaters around here.
Yeah, it's digital soon. It is still showing in theaters all around us. That's funny. Hey.
And I have thought about seeing it again.
Yeah, it's a good movie. So
yeah, it is. It is a good movie.
It's we love talking top fives. It's definitely in my top 5 MCU. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be up there for me too. Yeah.
And I think for me, I think I gotta let it sit a little longer, but I think Infinity War is gonna break my top 5 too. So,
well, that's another episode, my man.
That is
maybe ahead of Ant-Man and the Wasp, we can do our Marvel Cinematic Universe top 5s.
I'm into it.
And maybe by then you'll have seen Ant-Man.
This is one top 5 area because we always have a personal debate because I don't do a lot of top 5s, but I definitely have my MCUs ranked out. So
I like a top 5 or a top anything because I also like a hot take and I like defending a take, But it's just playful. I mean, it's nothing. No one's gonna. In 20 years, no one's gonna come up to you and be like, "You did say that Thor: The Dark World's the 3rd best Marvel movie."
But if anyone did say that to me, it would be you.
That's true, actually.
And specifically, I believe you like the hot take top 5. That's like your favorite.
Dude, yeah, I'll do top 5 hot takes.
Like when you just get to list a top 5 without even thinking about it.
Yeah, hit me with one right now. I'll do it.
Top 5 Nickelodeon daytime cartoons.
Daytime cartoons? Those are like the Nick Jr. ones, right?
There we go, baby.
So we got. Does Blue's Clues count? They do have a cartoon section. Blue's Clues wouldn't be in there. Franklin the Turtle, OG Franklin was better than they updated Franklin at some point, and everything was like a little more cartoony. And I didn't like that. I feel like there was a Toad. Was there a Toad show? Like Frog and Toad, the show or something?
That's old school.
Yeah, that one was good. Bob the Builder. I caught the end run of a Bob the Builder.
Like recently?
Yeah, no, like as a youth, I was in the market for when Bob the Builder just started.
That makes sense.
The end of my children's run there. Fairly Odd Parents I was a big fan of. And I remember watching the SpongeBob premiere in our old house in Springfield, Massachusetts. I don't know how many that is, and I didn't pick an order, but that's my top 5, and I'll go to the grave with it.
I'm glad we worked that out.
Yeah, me too. What have you been watching, Max? Any of those cartoons come up in your feed?
No, not at all.
Weird.
In fact, some of them I'm not sure if I've ever actually seen, but that just shows our age difference. It's funny how
it just shows how much more of a connoisseur of media I am.
Yeah, how much you consume. But no, it's funny because with kids TV, there's that huge gap of like, we could be 3 to 4 to 6 to 10 years apart, and our shows would be completely different. Some would be the same, but most of them would be different. But then when you become an adult, it's just like you have as much right to watch Cheers and love Cheers as somebody who watched it when it aired. It's weird how it changes. But for me, this week has been exciting because I've been able to jump back into an old favorite, but in a new spin, which is Arrested Development Season 4 Remix.
Oh, yeah.
So,
with Season 5 right around the corner.
Yeah, at the end of the month.
Which is crazy because in our last episode, we weren't even sure if Season 5 was coming this summer at all. And it'll be out in like 2 weeks.
That's free real estate, man.
That's free real estate. But anyways, you've been watching the remix.
Mm-hmm. I have.
How many episodes into it are you?
Oh, gosh. I feel like I'm nearing a dozen, but I feel like it's like a full-length season, like 20-ish episodes. So
yeah, they changed it to 20-something episodes.
Yeah, so it's I'm getting about the halfway point. It's funny to see it this way because I only watched it once in its original iteration, and I remember it was I think some people have told me they've watched it multiple times and it made much more sense on like frequent viewings. But there was some of it where I was just kind of confused as to what's going on. This one's a lot more linear and structured, and it has a lot more flow to it. In that sense,
that
where
was
it's
the
like
problem with the original for sure, without the actors being able to be together really.
Yeah, and somehow this one feels like the actors are together way more, which is cool. So I guess just putting it in that right order made it feel because it's only 2 or 3 characters interacting at the same time, but when they do, it's super fun. So you rarely get the big group until like I think the end of the season, but right now you get little clusters of them, and it kind of works for how the story is because the family had the big send off at the end of season 3 or whatever, and you could kind of guess that the family splintered. So it's kind of fun to see it all like come back together slowly in this way. A lot of jokes are still working for me. I mean, like, there's this whole plot line of a wall between the U.S. and Mexico, which is somehow still funny.
Wow. So, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of jokes with it. So just like Arrested Development always does, they have jokes you didn't see coming. So,
no.
But no, it's enjoyable. It's good. I'm still loving the Bluth family.
I haven't got, because I do love Arrested Development. It's probably one of my, it would be in my top 5 favorite sitcoms, but I did like season 4. Like, on the first view, I thought it was okay, and I've probably watched it 2 full times since then, and I enjoyed it in its original capacity. So I wasn't eager to dive back in and watch this cut. But I'm glad they did it because for people like you who it didn't work on one viewing or it didn't work at all, they might be able to enjoy it more. The one episode I did watch, I know it's a lot heavier on the narration from Ron Howard.
Yeah.
To make the story work, which makes sense because it's not like they could bring the actors back for reshoots, and they wouldn't want to anyways. But
yeah, and there's a couple episodes where that happens, where it's just like, okay, this is a lot more than I was expecting, like narration-wise.
Yeah,
but it's not too much. I mean, it's just because it was filmed a different way, and they're kind of reformatting it,
Right. But now I'm excited. And I'm sure you watched the trailer for the new season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it looks just as funny as usual.
And I don't know if I ever said this on the podcast, but I know I've texted about 20 different people this, and it's low-hanging fruit, really. I'm sure a lot of people had this thought, but whatever your politics are, the current political climate very much lends itself to Arrested Development, and making at least one character go like full-on political. I just have been saying for like 2 years now that would be so smart for them, and I'm glad to see that. At least with Lindsay, it looks like they're doing that. So,
yeah, it is sort of low-hanging fruit, but this creative group is a group I'd like to see go after that.
Exactly.
I'm almost sick of jokes about politics and stuff by now, but there's definitely still a place for them, and they're in a sense they're almost important, which is kind of
it's their wheelhouse though. I mean, they've been doing political jokes so long that like I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see their take.
It's been so long since I've seen the ocean.
Yeah, we're going to see how goofy they take it. So,
yeah, for sure.
I recommend it if you're an Arrested Development fan, just jumping back in. You're going to find your old favorites there. You're going to have a good time. It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'll probably dive in before that season 5, but
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
you don't want to be, like everyone's laughing at the jokes and you don't get them.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to be the guy who doesn't know what a chicken sounds like.
Yeah. Cuckoo, chew.
What about you, man? What have you been watching?
You want a hot off the press release, or do you want a slightly simmery, less hot release first?
I gotta say, I'm a man who might want both.
I mean, you're getting them both. It was just an order thing, but since you didn't choose, I'll choose. I saw Tully The most recent movie directed by Jason Reitman and written by Diablo Cody and starring Charlize Theron, amongst others.
Was it good?
I loved it. I thought it was really good, man.
It has Mackenzie Davis in it, too.
Yeah, Mackenzie Davis, Ron Zimmerman, and I believe it's Mark Duplass. For some reason, I get the Duplass brothers confused, but I'm not convinced I've seen the other one.
It's the mumbling.
Yeah, mumblecore. It was really good, though. The reviews were excellent, like the critics' reviews. But then I heard some weird opinions where people were like, oh, it's not what I expected, and it's like this negative portrayal of motherhood. But I didn't think it was like that at all. I actually thought it was a very positive portrayal of motherhood, but it also touches on other things, like just the challenges of there is more than meets the eye with the trailer, and you know, it kind of snuck up on me, the release, because I remember seeing the trailer, but I don't think it had like a big marketing push at all, and especially coming the week after Avengers, it's kind of counter programming, and I don't know how well it's done, but it's just a very good movie. I don't want to talk too much about the plot because there is more than meets the eye to it, but I recently, like maybe 2 months ago, watched Up in the Air for the first time. Yeah. Which was like the Clooney, Vera Farmiga movie. And I really liked it. I was surprised because when it came out, I think I was still sour on Clooney from Leatherheads, but I just wasn't interested at all. And I finally watched it, and I was a little mad at myself for taking so long because I thought it was really good. But this is really good, too. The script's really good. It's a super interesting movie. They do very cool visual stuff in areas where, like, most of the scenes are like a mom, a kid, and an action. So, like, there's not a lot of room for creativity there, but they actually have some really cool sequences in it. So
that's cool.
I think you'd really like it. I think Jody would like it. Wife of the podcast.
Yeah, just mutually of the podcast.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love his movie that he directed with Diablo Cody writing Young Adult.
Yeah, that's also Charlize Theron.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite movies, man.
I haven't seen it, but I after I saw it and I got out of the theater, I looked at his filmography to see what I missed, and I know you like that movie, and it's got good reviews, so I'm going to check it out soon.
I also suggest Jay Who Lives at Home.
Is that Jason Reitman? Or I'm sorry, my phone just went off.
I think he produced it. Now that I'm looking at it, yeah, it's the Duplass brothers, but he produced it with them. It was on his filmography, so
okay. Yeah.
I still recommend that one just because it's a really good film and it has the Duplasses.
I've heard that. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that that's a good movie on its own right.
Yeah. But as far as Jason Reitman's work, yeah, for sure, check out Young Adult. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. It's depressing. It's funny, depressing. It's good.
Totally kind of has a little bit of all that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I was happy with the ending of it, so I'd be really interested in you seeing it and letting me know your thoughts. Maybe we could talk in detail another time. But, you know, it's no Avengers Infinity War. It's not an opening weekend guarantee. So
yeah, for sure. No, I'm going to try and see that one now that I know it's out around here. So.
Yeah, man. Another movie I saw recently is a movie I was actually kind of against just as a concept for a very long time. I saw Deepwater Horizon, the Peter Berg, Mark Wahlberg original collab between the two. I've never liked these movies that are about real events that are like so fresh that it always feels at least a little bit exploitive to me.
Yeah, I get that.
But I was traveling for work a couple weeks ago and we landed. There was a time change and stuff. I got to the hotel, turned the TV on, and it had just started too. Deepwater Horizon had on HBO. So because it had just started, I decided to watch it. And man, it was really good. I was blown away by how good it was. It's a strangely thrilling action movie, kind of. Not in the sense of like a cops and robbers cat and mouse thing, but like they're on the Deepwater Horizon and it's literally exploding around them, and there's like an escape, like a prison escape feel almost to it. The effects are amazing. They and what I like is they never take like their foot off BP's throat with it. Like John Malkovich plays this BP exec who's all about the bottom line, and I'm sure it was dramatized a bit, but in one of the longer sequences of the movie, they're doing these tests after Josh Brolin's character had told them they need to shut down the pump and fix these things. and Malkovich goes down to the room and he's having him run these tests, and it passed the tests, and then everything obviously goes to hell and went to hell for months. But they never let up on BP and make it seem like they like it was an unavoidable accident or it was a freak thing. They were like, they needed to do better. And I was very happy with that. But the movie's just really good. I was thrilled by it. I learned a lot. Mark Wahlberg was good. I'm starting to warm up on Marky Mark, man. I watched The Fighter. I watched this. I'm like, hey, man, where's his Oscar?
Sometimes he represents, you know?
Yeah. But, I mean, he's got a funky bunch of roles, but when you find the right ones, he's really good.
Yeah, when you find him in something really good, he just really puts out a lot of good vibrations, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But no, I highly recommend it. I'm curious now about Patriots Day, the one about the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah.
But I'm still not feeling like I want to go out of my way to watch it, because I do still have this feeling that these movies aren't made with, I don't know.
Dude, I mean, weird. It's tough because, you might check out Patriots Day. You might, want to watch a couple other real life things. And the next thing you know, you're watching 12 Strong, real story of the Horse Warriors. So,
yeah. I wonder how accurate that title was that you just did.
It's not. But don't
12
look it up.
Strong, the real story of the horse soldiers.
It's probably 80% accurate, dude. There's so many words in that title.
But I like that it's not the true story, it's the real story.
Yeah. Well,
the truth isn't real enough.
It's the real story for the real fans, Scott, not for the critics.
Yeah. You make 12 Strong for the real fans.
Yeah.
But, man, that like if that came out 5 years ago, would have been Mark Wahlberg for sure. Mark Wahlberg kind of aged out of that role, and so they had to get whichever Helmsworth it was. I don't even know which one. Donnie Hemsworth. But
yeah.
Anyways, Deepwater Horizon was good.
Well, if I ever come across it in a hotel while I'm traveling for work, I think I'll check it out too.
It's also streaming on HBO if you ever want to throw it on. But
that's good to know.
Yeah. So that's what I've been watching though.
Anything else?
Nothing new and nothing I want to talk about.
Nice.
Survivor. I could talk about Survivor. Do you want this to be one of those episodes?
That's always your call, my friend. I'll never stop you, but I don't necessarily encourage you.
We're at like the late season. There's like 3 more episodes. We're down to the final 8 or 9 players.
Mm-hmm.
The real contenders are starting to emerge. Dominic, Wendell, Laurel, maybe, but it really looks like a 2-horse race here. Sometimes the Survivor editors will try and deceive you. They'll play up a couple characters, and then when they'll get eliminated, it's this huge shock. But this doesn't seem like what's happening now. There's like a 2-horse race. And they're both very good characters, so if either of them want to be happy. But, I'll save my thoughts.
Hey, they're always welcome.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate that.
I mean, the few times I've watched Survivor, I get it. It's a cool show. So
you played Survivor, too, in a home game. Yeah. Runner-up. What can you do?
Pretty well.
What can you do? Yeah. But me talking Survivor is kind of like you talking Star Trek, Like, it's just so much about it, and I don't know much about it. But if only there was some property out there that could help bridge the gap, and then we could both have fun talking about something,
Yeah. As like somebody made a spoof of of Star Trek that could bridge the gap here between fandom and audiences, general audiences.
Yeah, and maybe you'll learn something about yourself along the way.
It reminds me of a movie.
Yeah. Max, what's the plot synopsis for Galaxy Quest?
The cast of a space opera television series has to reprise their roles when an alien race requests their help against a reptilian warlord, believing the show to be a documentary of true events.
Yeah. That's pretty accurate. And when you hear that, it makes me wonder why this hadn't been made before.
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of those movies that, whether or not you've seen Star Trek or not, Star Trek from the cultural lexicon of America. And you know enough that when you see it, you're like, oh, that makes sense,
Oh, yeah.
Like, people spoof big things. They make, satires and stuff like that. And most of them, if they're good, you're like, yeah, I get it. And sometimes you don't really get it, but you might see it and it's funny. There's certain properties, Like Disney stuff is usually part of the public conversation always. Like, everyone knows who Mickey Mouse is.
Everyone.
And so there's stuff like that. There's cartoon stuff. There's kids stuff. Like if you do a Sesame Street spoof, everyone knows exactly what you're spoofing as soon as you start it. So scary movies, there's these tropes that just carry on that people get. Action movies, like if a guy's walking away from an explosion, you don't necessarily have to know what movie first did that because you know that it's in a ton of movies.
And you just know it's an action movie.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, except, it changes when you get here because Star Trek is so specific and like so unique, and it's this huge like sprawling series of multiple series and movies now, and it just has this like really dedicated fandom, and Star Trek tropes whether or not you've seen Star Trek. That's how like much it's permeated into pop culture.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek has been the like other sci-fi properties are not spin-offs of Star Trek, but they exist because of Star Trek.
Yeah.
They succeed using a lot of the same tropes or genre conventions that Star Trek did. Like the new maybe Battlestar Galactica series, that's probably not existing. I know it's based on an original BSG, but it's probably not the show that it is today, or maybe that show The Expanse, which has been really successful on Sci-Fi Channel. Mm-hmm. Those don't exist without Star Trek. Well, even if you don't watch Star Trek, you kind of get what all these shows are doing. And you get Star Trek because of it.
Specifically, to expand on what you just said with Battlestar, the showrunner is Ronald D. Moore, who actually was a writer for Star Trek The Next Generation and then became a showrunner for one of the other series, I think Deep Space Nine for a little bit.
Shout out Ronald D. Moore.
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head. Whether or not you even knew it, you could figure that out, basically.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but it makes sense. Yeah. It supports the point. You know? And so what I think is so cool about this is you are a bona fide Trekkie, right? You're very much into Star Trek as a property. Mm-hmm. That's safe to say. I am not. My version of Captain Kirk is Chris Pine, and that's heresy to hear probably, but all I know is the newest movies. But Galaxy Quest works probably just as well for me as it does for you, or at least it works well enough for me, even without me knowing specific things about Star Trek or being this big Star Trek fan, because on its own, it's just a funny movie.
Yeah.
This might get me some hate, but I think Galaxy Quest is a significantly funnier movie than Spaceballs because of that. Spaceballs is so specific to Star Wars that the jokes are funny and you get them in relation to Star Wars, but I think Galaxy Quest is just independent of what it's based on and what it's spoofing. It's just a very funny movie. It's well done on its own.
I don't think you'll get any hate for that, man. I'll be honest.
I might. There's people out there who love Spaceballs.
Yeah, it's just when I think about it, it's like Spaceballs I loved as a kid, but I haven't even watched it.
Never had the urge to watch it again. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched it at all in years, and I like Mel Brooks comedy a lot, so I mean, if people want to come at us, I'll agree with you that I think Galaxy Quest is way better, but
yeah, but it's specifically because when you remove the spoof, even when you have spoofs or parodies or whatever, when you remove all of that, you still want to have a core of a good film. Yeah. And this is the core here is a great film.
Yeah, it has
as shown by its multiple Saturn Award and single Teen Choice Award nomination.
It has a legitimately good story with realized characters.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Spaceballs has funny names like Pizza the Hut. And Yogurt or whatever it is. So
wasn't there something with a pimple face, but I couldn't remember the character's name.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll never forget Guy Fleegman.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly.
Who do you think the crew from Galaxy Quest sent in case they won their Teen Choice Award for Best Comedy Film?
Do you have the answer to this, and I'm guessing?
No, I don't know. I'm not eager to dive into the archives of the Teen Choice Awards, but
I mean, I feel like Tim Allen's a shoo-in for that because he still had some Home Improvement love.
Oh, Tim Allen would be the one they'd want, but is the Teen Choice Awards big enough to get Tim Allen, or are they getting, a Tony Shalhoub?
Well,
are they getting a Missy Pyle?
We're talking what? We're talking 1999?
This would be the 2000 Teen Choice Awards.
The question is, how big was Jonathan Taylor Thomas at the time?
Oh man,
If
5'8".
Well, not literally, but if he was still riding high, man, he could have just been like, "Yo, I want my fake dad to come with me," and they'd have been like,
Okay.
"Yeah, let's get Tim Allen in here. Let's make sure he's in here." And Tim Allen could have been like, "Why am I doing this?" Or he could have been like, "Yeah, let's do this," So I don't know, man. Maybe they just sent Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
4 bands performed at the Teen Choice Awards. If you can name, at least 3 of them. I don't know the 4th, but you probably do. But I'm curious as to what your guesses would be.
And this is from the year 2000?
This was August 6, 2000.
NSYNC?
No. This, you got to think like B level.
Okay.
NSYNC, Backstreet, they're too big.
Lit.
No.
Damn it.
98 Degrees.
Oh, okay.
Enrique Iglesias.
Now, watch what you say about B level, okay, dude?
Hey, you're not going to like this. No Doubt.
Yeah, what are you saying, man?
Well, 98 Degrees is a direct B level. That one made sense.
I'll give you that one.
And then BB Mac.
Yeah, that's like D level.
I don't know BB Mac, so.
They had a song that was like, Until I'm Back With You or something like that.
Man, reading this list of presenters is just a real throwback.
What's funny is I was trying to Google BB Mac, and I just wrote Back.
Back. And there was no designated host, but all of the performers were introduced by Freddie Prinze Jr. So.
Wow. And you wanted to say that was B-list.
Well, I do think Freddie Prinze Jr. is B-list.
Excuse you.
At me.
That's fighting words there, Scott. Forget Spaceballs.
They had some big time presenters though. Jamie Foxx, Usher, Vitamin C, Paul Walker, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Hanson. So it's possible that Tim Allen rolled out of bed for this.
I mean, I Googled Teen Choice Awards 2000, and I see some big names there. You got a Mandy Moore. I see NSYNC. I see Britney Spears.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt.
Yeah. And No Doubt's there too.
No Doubt's there too. But anyways.
We're getting way distracted here, my friend.
They should bring back the Teen Choice Awards.
I think it still exists, maybe.
Yeah, I think as soon as you're not a teenager anymore, you lose memory of... Yeah. It becomes a blind spot in your life.
Yeah, for sure. Until you're all of a sudden there winning an award for a movie, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas made you go.
I heard that we might be nominated for a Choice Podcast, so... Yeah,
all you teens listening... Go to bed.
Just Break Clowns, get out there and vote.
Yeah.
So this one was directed, not the 2000 Teen Choice Awards, but the movie Galaxy Quest was directed by Dean Parisot. He also directed Red 2 and Fun with Dick and Jane. So Galaxy Quest is his biggest. But did you see that he will be directing the upcoming Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Yeah. I did see that announced today.
Yeah, I know. A hot take.
That's cool, man. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, but I thought that was crazy. I thought it was like a typo on the IMDb.
You're like, excuse you.
I had assumed that those had been directed and written by like the same guy, but each of the 2 movies was directed by someone different. So
I could see that.
And then Dean Parisot didn't have any ties to the first 2. Well, he didn't direct them at least.
Yeah.
And this was written by David Howard, and I didn't write the other guy's name down, but David Howard's never written anything else of note.
Yeah, that's because...
Well, he didn't die, did he?
No, he wrote a spec script. This is, for you guys that don't know, a spec script is like a speculative script. That's what it stands for. But, you write a script and you pitch it, basically. It's an unsolicited screenplay, non-commissioned, so... Dude wrote this like kind of basic concept, and then I believe Robert Gordon came in and was hired to do a rewrite because the guys who got it, they were okay with it, but they wanted it to be better than what they had, and so they got Robert Gordon to do a rewrite. And he's done.
Did he do Men in Black 2?
He did Men in Black 2, and I think he did a series of Unfortunate Events.
The movie with Jim Carrey
from 2004. Yeah.
Not the show.
Yeah. So
that's interesting.
So he's written some well financially doing movies. That's a terrible way of saying it.
That's a sentence.
He's written some performers out there. They made their money and stuff. Nothing like a blockbuster necessarily. I mean, Men in Black counts, I guess, but
Yeah. Max, was Galaxy Quest a well financially movie?
A well financially done movie, I think.
Excuse me.
I feel like it was. I feel like everyone I knew at the time was seeing it.
Well, they might have lied to you. It had a $45 million budget, and its total domestic run was $71.6 million. The total worldwide was under $100 million, too, so not a huge success. What I was shocked at, it opened wide on Christmas Eve and opened at number 7 with only $7 million. There's a lot of other movies that came out on Christmas Eve of 1999. The 6 movies ahead of it were Any Given Sunday, which I believe is an Al Pacino football movie. The Talented Mr. Ripley, which is a Matt Damon, just not Good Will Hunting movie.
Yeah.
Stuart Little. I don't know why I said that with so much excitement. Toy Story 2, a movie that we should legit be excited about. The Green Mile, and Man on the Moon, which is that the Jim Carrey, Andy Kaufman movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Galaxy Quest at number 7. So that's kind of a bummer,
Yeah, but I mean, those are some contenders there, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, its total run being only at 71 million isn't too great.
Yeah.
But and it had a wide release and everything. It wasn't a limited. It just busy Christmas weekend there.
I think the reason why I thought a lot of people were seeing it because a lot of people I knew were seeing it.
Yeah, smaller market there, but and I didn't see it in the theaters. I definitely saw Toy Story 2 and Stuart Little in theaters, but I remember watching Galaxy Quest with my aunt and uncle once when we visited them, and being very satisfied with it, even as a youngin.
Yeah, you know who else was satisfied with this movie?
Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver definitely was. Some other
That's
people.
not what you were going for.
No, it's not. Some other people were very satisfied with it, including a lot of the Star Trek cast.
Oh, yeah. Any notable quotes or anything from?
Yes. I mean, you got a lot of series out there, so
hit us with a quote from each series if you got them.
Yeah, I'll hit you with a couple here. They're all long, so I'll just kind of give you the Reader's Digest. Patrick Stewart said he originally didn't want to see it because he heard it was making fun of Star Trek, but then Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker, gave him a call and said, you got to see it on a Saturday night with a full theater. And so he did that. He thought it was brilliant. He said no one laughed louder or longer or louder than him. But then once he saw that the movie eventually was leaning towards bringing in the fans and having the fans save the day, he really felt it was like a wonderful film, basically. Shatner said he thought it was very, very funny, but he thought the audience was captured very well, like as in the portrayal of a Star Trek audience in this as a Galaxy Quest audience. He thought that was really, really good and enjoyed that. And then he said there was something he's not sure what Tim Allen was doing. He just doesn't get it, like, but as a joke. He's just like, I don't get what he's trying to portray there. So you could tell he got it.
He's self-aware.
Which, a little aside here, the bathroom scene in Galaxy Quest actually happened to William Shatner, and that's when he realized he had been like a turd for a long time to his castmates.
The bathroom scene was a scene in the movie. Tim Allen's taking a dump or something, and some fans are also in the bathroom. They don't know he's there, but they're just talking about how shitty Tim Allen's character is Jason Nesmith.
Yeah. How
shitty he was, like, to the other cast and how much of a joke he is and stuff like that.
And how, like, the other cast hates him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So. And then Will Wheaton, who, he's famous in the nerd world now, but he said he loved Galaxy Quest, but the only thing he would have changed was to have him in it making fun of Laredo as, being the boy on the show. So that's all he wished, that he could be the guy saying how awful it was.
Like a cameo?
Yeah. And then George Takei referred to it as a chillingly realistic documentary.
It's kind of funny, like, because the movie does have an extra layer of comedy for the actors who are in it.
Yeah.
So
like, apparently, Alan Rickman he doesn't like, at the time at least, he said he didn't like doing science fiction. I'll debate that in a second, but he read the script and couldn't stop laughing and was like, I have to do this movie.
And even more perfect with that in mind is that his character, Alexander Dane, he plays like this refined British theater actor who's always in the makeup, and he's like cares about the craft and he thinks it's a joke. So it fits that Alan Rickman, the actor, would play this character.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He is one of the two funniest characters because Guy Fleegman is pretty next level.
And there's great just behind the scenes stuff with this. Like the fact that Alan Rickman does not ever get out of the makeup, even when he's at home on the phone, he's still wearing the head thing. It's so stupid, but so funny.
It's very funny.
And it's just like, you could tell he just loved being the character. So that's super fun. I was saying, I take issue with him saying he doesn't do a lot of sci-fi because obviously he does like genre films all the time. Maybe not sci-fi specifically, but he's in, a half dozen Harry Potter movies easily. And then he did old Robin Hood kind of movies that aren't, they're not sci-fi or fantasy, but it's just like, okay.
They're fantasy films.
Yeah.
And I had read that he specifically doesn't like sci-fi.
Yeah. And he was in Dogma, which is like a weird religious urban fantasy. I don't know how you would describe that movie. So obviously he has a thing for the fantasy, but yeah, so it's just kind of funny that he wouldn't do sci-fi except for this. But you know what? I'm happy with it. It's just
whatever works. Whatever gets Alan Rickman on set, because he was amazing.
He was. And then
the whole cast is really brilliant, though.
Yeah. You got Tim Allen, like we said.
And he wasn't the first choice. Did you read who their first choice was?
No, who was?
Harold Ramey was the...
Harold Ramis?
I wasn't sure if that was like a fancy or not. Harold Ramis was a producer originally, and he wanted Alec Baldwin for the lead. Which I can also picture.
Yeah, I could see that.
But Alec Baldwin turned it down, and then they considered Steve Martin and Kevin Kline. But then the studio got Tim Allen, and Ramis left the project totally. But then, once he saw the movie, he was very happy with it. And specifically Tim Allen's performance.
Yeah, because Tim Allen lands this. He's really good in it. So.
Oh, yeah. It plays up everything that makes Tim Allen great.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Guy Fleegman.
Yeah.
Who is played by
the Academy Award winner, Sam Rockwell. I think this is the first time we're officially congratulating Samuel on his Academy Award win. So a tip of the podcaster's headphones to you, Mr. Rockwell.
Doing a little golf clap for him.
Yeah.
Did you read who Sam Rockwell based his performance on?
Yes, I did. He based it on Bill Paxton from Aliens.
Yes.
Which I didn't think about at all watching the movie again. But now reading it, that makes 100% sense.
Oh, yeah. He gets it with the hysterics and all that, and the fear of death, and just the emotional collapsing he does throughout the movie.
For sure.
So good.
Yeah. It's amazing.
You also have... We mentioned Sigourney Weaver. She's in this. Apparently there was hesitation, I think, from her as well as the studio because she's already done so much science fiction, meaning the Alien series.
Yeah, obviously.
But I'm glad she went for it because she's amazing in it.
Yeah, she's great.
And what's funny is people were still fanning her because Tim Allen wanted her to sign all of his Alien stuff. So
Tim Allen wanted
Sigourney Weaver
to sign his stuff
from the movie, like that. He's just like memorabilia he's bought about Alien. So
that's funny.
Yeah. I would do the same thing, so I can't blame him.
Yeah, but he's got to be a professional here,
It's true. You have Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, Tony Shalhoub's great in this movie.
He plays Fred Kwan playing Tech Sergeant Chen.
Yeah, and his character is just this like aloof kind of weirdo, but he's also always along for the ride.
Yeah, he's like down for anything, but he's like burned out beyond belief too. So
my favorite scene or my favorite moment with him was when the aliens come to get the rest of the crew after Tim Allen's already gone. They beam them all up to the ship, and there's a scene where they all look like these giant like blobs, basically, like squids that are just made of like the inside of human flesh, and they're doing all these tests, and it's terrifying. And the crew starts like screaming. I think Guy Fleegman just starts screaming, and then they're like, "Oh, we didn't realize that our appearance cloaks or whatever they called them weren't on. And so they turn them on, they looked like humans again. And then Tony Shalhoub's character lands, and he didn't see any of that. Everyone else is freaked out, and he just goes, "What a ride." Or "What a trip," or something like that. Just walks off. It's amazing.
All of his little comments, like when he's like, the floors are so clean.
Yeah, everything. Like, the reason he wasn't with them there is because he was looking at a vending machine to get food. He's like, "Does anyone have $1?" or something like that. There's another scene where he's reporting, his role is like the Scotty role from Star Trek, I guess. There's another scene where he's reporting damages to the ship, and he's like reading off. You can tell he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then one of the characters says, like, "All right, thanks." And he's like, "Hey, we got it." The group hug. And then he's hugging the guys. It's amazing.
I like the exchange with him and Alexander Dane, where they're looking at the little aliens and the rock planet, and he's like, Dane's like, "Could they be minors?" And he's like, "Sure, they're like 3 years old." Yeah. He's like, "Minors, not minors." And he's like, "You lost me."
They're like, "We don't know if there's air." He just walks off the ship, and he's like sniffing that. He's like, "There's air."
Yeah, it's just so funny, man.
They really do. I mean, you mentioned it briefly earlier. Well, we should just mention Daryl Mitchell plays Tommy Weber. Mm-hmm. Who is the Will Wheaton character here. Yeah. He was the kid pilot, all grown up now, and he's very funny as well. But Daryl Mitchell, I feel like I haven't seen him in other stuff.
He's not in a lot of stuff, man, at least not recently.
But the rest of the cast is like A-listers, or they all had their time as A-listers at least. Yeah. All of them together, though, they have great dynamics with each other, and they all have their own specific characterization. That's what makes the movie work so well. Mm-hmm. Like, Guy Fleegman's freaking out about everything, and Fred Kwan is so numb to everything. And I also like Guy Fleegman isn't Sam Rockwell's character's name. They just give him that name. He was a red shirt, crewman number 6, they kept calling him. Yeah. And then at one point, he's just like screaming about how he's going to die because he doesn't even have a name. And then I think it was Tim Allen just started calling him Guy Fleegman.
Yeah. I think they said they have to name him to keep him alive or something.
Yeah.
So it's even funnier.
Yeah, they got to that planet, and he's like, "I died in this episode, this. Like, you're not gonna die." And then like things start to go downhill, and they're like, "Oh no, we gotta name him or else he's gonna die."
Yeah. Oh, man. We have 2 film debuts in this movie.
Yeah.
We have one, Justin Long.
Yes, sir.
As Brandon, who saves the day.
Yeah, he's the king of the Trekkies, or I don't know what they called the fans in this movie, but he's like the Uber fan.
The Questies or something.
Yeah.
No, but he's it's Justin Long, so he's good at comedy. He's funny. He's good at the physical stuff and being a nerd.
And even here you can see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like he does things that are just funny, and the way he like breathes is nerdy. So it's a great start for him because you could just watch it and get that like this guy's gonna do some funny comedy movies.
Yeah, I've always liked Justin Long. I feel like in an alternate universe, Justin Long becomes like an actual A-list lead star, whereas the path he took here, and maybe it's just roles he chose and his preferences, but he never really broke out of this kind of like nerd, dorky, anxious guy character. He never became like that lead.
He kind of like tilted out to a couple other things, but they were all like kind of parallel in a way. I get what you're saying completely. He was never able to do the John Krasinski like lean out of the Jim character into all these other roles he's been doing lately. You know, and not to have a ridiculous segue here, but
here we go.
There is an Office alum in this film as well.
Yes, there is. Another film debut.
Yeah, doing his film debut.
Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson as Lank, one of the aliens.
One of the Thermians.
And it's so funny because like at the time they all kind of look alike. They cast people who have like big eyes and like kind of round faces to a degree.
Round heads.
Yeah, and they all give them the same bowl cut. So at the time seeing this, I mean, you wouldn't even notice this guy among everyone else. He would blend in. But now that you know like Dwight's face and you see Rainn Wilson, you're like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah. One of the other Thermians that plays Mathazar, the leader, is the actor Enrico Colantoni, and you've definitely seen his face in things, but his biggest other role, to my knowledge, is he plays one of the key characters in the show and movie Veronica Mars.
Yep. Most people would know him from that, or you might know him from a little sitcom called Just Shoot Me. He was in that as well. That's where I knew him from first. But yeah.
No. But really solid cast, though. Very funny. The villain is actually a very present character, which sometimes in a movie like this, they're not.
Yeah.
But it's just another alien, General Rothar Saris or something like that. Mm-hmm. But he was played by an actor named Robin Sachs, who I don't know that he's like major roles. He's like a character actor.
Character actor for sure, yeah. He's been in video games and cartoons and movies. He's all over the place, man. Does a lot of voice stuff.
But seeing him, like his character design, reminded me exactly of like Eric Bana in the first Star Trek. These reboots. So, I mean, they nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Star Trek villain that shows up on the camera screen, haunts them throughout it, and then they outsmart using their intellect in the very end. So it even captures like the ethos of Star Trek in the movie, even though it's like a fun comedy. They still capture the using your brain to outwit the bad guy instead of just violence. You could use violence, but in a smart way.
You and through all the poking fun at Star Trek, they actually make a very respectable Star Trek movie. Like you've said, I know in the past on the podcast that this is one of the better Star Trek movies that's come out.
Yeah, and it's been ranked.
It's just like you said. Yeah.
I forgot where, but at the 2013 Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, it received enough support in a Star Trek film ranking that was included with the 12 films at the time, and it was ranked 7th best Star Trek film.
Yeah, ahead of it, in order from 1st to 6th, were Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek First Contact, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, and the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek.
Those are all good.
Yeah, and Into Darkness ranks 13th on this list that I saw. Which is still interesting because I actually, I don't know if I told you, I rewatched it a couple months ago, and I have no issues with it. I know Trek fans don't like it because it doesn't feel like it's, or maybe some of the stuff it does. I mean, you can talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, just from the Trekker / Trekkie perspective, it doesn't, like I said, this movie, Galaxy Quest, captures a lot of the ethos of Star Trek. Into Darkness, most people's issues with it is it doesn't do that. It doesn't feel like, like leading towards utopia. Because that's kind of like one of the concepts with Star Trek is it's a more utopian society, and Into Darkness is actually like the opposite of that, where the guy who plays Robocop, I can't think of his name right now.
Joel Kinnaman?
Paul Weller. He plays the original Robocop. Peter Weller, thank you. He is, this like, just all of it seems more modern in the way that that our real society is, and it just didn't feel like leading towards utopia, how a lot of Star Trek feels. And that's, I think, the main thing is just that tonal shift makes it feel different for Star Trek fans. As a movie itself, it's not like a terrible narrative. I get where you're coming from just watching it, like it's an entertaining, well-made film. But then there's certain things they do, like they're pulling away from the core message of Star Trek while also trying to rely on Star Trek itself as a medium to tell a story without doing work. Like the whole Khan plot line is kind of pointless because it doesn't really add anything to the movie that Benedict Cumberbatch is Khan. No,
I guess not. I mean, like, as someone who hasn't seen Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, I mean, you can make his name James Gandolfini, and he would be the same character. Like, nothing would change about him. And it wouldn't, like, he doesn't need to be Khan, so it's just like he could be anyone. He could still be a augmented human trying to save his people, but like making him Khan was just a cash grab, a fan grab in a way to like make people like, who is he? Who isn't he? And then they had this whole thing where they were keeping it secret.
Yeah, they made it like a reveal.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, and then they had to dial in Spock to find out who he was. Like, that just really bothered me because it's like, why is this here? Make him his own character, or even use other characters that work better. You're getting me way distracted here, but basically, like, the movie itself wanted to be different, but it also wants to rely on Star Trek while having a different like tone to it. So I felt the 2009 one had the same tone as Star Trek does, like, you know, still leaning towards something better. We can be better. We can do better. Like, this guy's getting revenge for his, you know, people being destroyed, and I get that. I dig that. But also at the same time, you shouldn't, you know, just go with that revenge. And that's kind of like where those two differ for me. So
sure.
But no, like I said, I get
take you way off the path.
Yeah, but I get that it's a good movie in that sense of it being a narrative. Like, I'm cool with that. Yeah. But yeah, Galaxy Quest itself is very Star Trek.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's no doubt. One of the best things about it is they rely on a lot of the tropes from the TV show, like stupid obstacles you have to get through. Yeah, on the what was the name of the Omega-13, the reactor that would explode? Or no, the reactor that would do something to change outcomes. I forget it
what
gives you like a 13-second differential or something.
Yeah, that's what it ended up doing.
Yeah, but they weren't sure. It would either destroy everything or give you a second chance, is what they said at one point. But that there's the section where it's like the blades and the fire. Yeah. And she's like, whoever wrote this is an idiot.
Yeah. Like, and then like they hit the button to turn off this reactor that's going to explode, and it doesn't stop until it gets down to 1 second or something down there. It's so silly, but it just works.
Yeah.
Like, there's one scene where Tim Allen's character is like tumbling around on this rock planet, and then they have to beam him back up after this like gladiator battle, and then as like he gets back, and Alan Rickman's character says something like, "You always have to find a way to lose your shirt." And it's like, that's poking fun at the Captain Kirk character, obviously, and just like the bravado and the heroics of him. But it just, I don't know, it all works. I have a contender, in my opinion, for funniest line of a movie on the podcast, at least. And I would actually elevate it. It's one of the funniest lines I've ever heard. And it's all about the writing, the delivery, the character, and everything. But when Alan Rickman's Alexander Dane is at the ribbon cutting ceremony at the used car sales place, and he has to say, "By Grabthar's hammer, what a savings." He says it with so much disdain, and the timing of it is perfect.
Yeah.
And not only the fact that they've already established that the Alexander Dane character is this like proud theatrical actor who this is just something he has to do for the money and stuff, but the fact that it's also Alan Rickman, who's also like a proud theatrical serious actor delivering it, just makes it so perfect. I had to pause the movie when I was watching because I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah.
Everything about it.
That is a classic line for sure.
Yeah, it's without a doubt.
I mean,
that's probably my favorite moment of the movie.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick one specific moment, but that's up there. Just that whole beginning sequence is so funny, dude. Just, I mean, all of it. Like when he's just him being drunk at the beginning, and then like them not believing him, all of that. It plays really well. When they get in the car and they're like, "Screw this guy," they're like, "Well, it's a paying gig," and they run back out. It's a perfectly believable like scenario for them to get angry, storm out of there, and then be like, "Wait a second, we should do this because we're broke."
Aging desperate actors.
And then even in the end, when it comes down to like what could be a cheesy ending, I mean, you're so invested in these characters by the time that you see like the Omega-13 have to be used and all that, that it's great. It works. It's still playing to the genre, but it feels natural and organic because they don't know what it does. The aliens just built it also. So.
Yeah. What one of the funnier things is Sam Rockwell plays what's essentially a red shirt, which they're famous for dying. In that sequence before they activate the Omega-13, which lets them repeat 13 seconds or whatever, there's like a rampage where the evil aliens are on the ship. They're killing everyone from the crew. And of that core crew from the TV show, Sam Rockwell's Guy Fleetman's the only one who doesn't get shot or anything in that sequence. I just thought that was funny. He was the only one who was fine. He was hiding under like a desk the whole time, but
that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that the first time. He's the one who doesn't die.
Yeah, and then they add him. So at the end of the movie, like you did say, that they're towing the line of like being cheesy, and it is cheesy, but it works.
Yeah.
the end, right before the actual film credits, is now the opening credits for the reboot of the show, and they have introducing whoever as Guy Fleegman, and he's like part of the crew now. So, whereas before he was just he was doing the presentation at this like Galaxy Con, or
he was like
QuestCon,
the lowest ranking actor that you could be.
The E-lister, and he was just like going along with them to try and like ride coattails.
And what's really cool is it comes back to a convention in the end, is where they land with Justin Long's help, and they have like a huge kind of reception there from all the fans, but they're like united this time. They're not broken up as a group. They're friends legitimately now, and he grabs the girl and he kisses her, and it's this big thing. And then the Ceres, the bad guy, shows up again, and he gets to like shoot him, and then they pull them all forward and do their all like mutual bow together, and it's just good stuff, man. I mean, it's the ending you want for a movie like this. It's earned and it's satisfying,
for sure. And not even just in comedies, but movies fail so much to establish the characterization of significantly smaller casts than this movie did. Like, this core 6 characters, and even more because Justin Long's character has significant characterization, and even some of the Thermians have significant characterization. But to do all of this in a pretty tight 100-minute movie, it's like amazing. I mean, that's what good writing is.
Yeah.
And I mean, Robert Gordon, who touched up this screen, what did you call the David Howard? The spec script. Yeah. He's not a prolific writer by any means, and Men in Black 2 is widely considered a dud, but it's good writing and it's good acting, but just to make these characters so memorable. Yeah.
I mean, he took characters that are brand new technically and made it feel like you knew them, their whole lives and your whole life. Like, I don't know, you see these characters and they feel, a little bit like the Star Trek characters, but they also feel like their own fully realized characters.
Yeah.
That's a skill. Yeah. Especially like we said with spoofs and satires.
Yeah, where you've got the original so much heavy on people's minds.
Yeah, because I mean, some of these, like you said, Spaceballs, it's all right.
Yeah.
There's good jokes in it, but it's not anything like you'd watch over and over again. Maybe if you just like the jokes.
Yeah, there's good bits in Spaceballs, but there's good humor in Galaxy Quest.
Yeah. And it's good storytelling.
The humor's organic. Yeah, and it is good storytelling. The story works. There's this one very funny scene, like whenever they get beamed up from Earth and back, they get covered in this like goop, this like gel. And when Tim Allen first does it, they kind of expand the walls of the ship. You just see all the space and stuff, and then it gets covered with this gross liquid, and the sound effect is like enhanced even louder than it should be. It's like just the gel going over him. It's just a funny, I don't know. And like before he realizes what's happening, Tim Allen really shines because he's in the car with his sunglasses on. He's obviously hungover. He asks them for like the aliens for like a Diet Coke and some Advil. They're describing this plight of their people being hunted, and they're all very serious. And he's literally sleeping, and he's like, "My eyes are closed, but I'm hanging on every word." And it's just like that one scene, 2 total minutes, is basically everything you need to know about the character. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So no, I love this movie. Everybody should watch it. Anybody who hasn't seen it, which may not be many people since the fans did choose this.
True.
But it's worth watching again because even as we explain everything, it's been a couple weeks now since I've watched it. I kind of want to watch it again. Because it works.
Well, who knows how it'll turn out, but they had originally, before the unfortunate death of Alan Rickman, they were planning on doing either a sequel or a sequel series. And obviously the end of the movie hints at one, but that kind of fell off the radar after Rickman passed, unfortunately. And I mean, I understand it because he's such a presence in the movie, and it works so well because of him. He's the unsung hero who kind of lives for being the unsung hero at the same time. So, he balances it out, and he's a key part of it. It's like, with Spock. Spock was, for sure a key part of Star Trek. But I believe in 2017 it was announced that Paul Scheer is working on a series for Amazon Prime, maybe?
Yep, for Amazon.
So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. I think they're gonna go with the generational split, like a new series type of thing, with the old one still in there. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I don't know if they're getting much of the original cast or any. The last I had heard was Sam Rockwell in an interview with, unfortunately I don't remember who, but he had mentioned that the original cast was ready to sign a deal for a show, but after Rickman passed, like you said, that that they aren't going to be brought back to it, probably.
Yeah, and I get that to a degree, but it'll be hard to replicate this magic unless you have really good writing.
Yeah, and I like Paul Scheer.
Yeah, me too.
I can't remember the name. Do you remember the script comedy, or like the sketch comedy show he was on?
Human
with
Giant?
Aziz Ansari? Yeah, Human Giant.
Yeah.
Human Giant had some good stuff. I don't even like sketch comedy, but I remember enjoying a lot of Human Giant, which was, gosh, that was like 2008 or 2009 now.
Yeah, what always comes to mind with them was Let's Go, or Let's...
Oh, yeah.
Where they're just running and saying like half a sentence then running, and then they would always spoof To Catch a Predator, and I just remember Aziz had like full facial hair, and some guy was... it was probably like Rob Hubel or something, was trying to get something started with him, and he was like, you thought I was a kid for real, man? I have a beard. And it always made me laugh. But yeah, so I haven't seen Human Giant forever, dude.
Paul Scheer did some writing with that, so...
yeah.
And I'm sure he's done some other stuff. I'm not too familiar with his writing.
He's a funny guy, so I think as far as comedy, it should be pretty solid. Like I said, I wonder if the magic will be there.
Yeah, it's always tough. I mean, like, we watched Zoolander 2 last year or whenever it was, and the magic was not there again. So
it was like the absence of the magic was so present that it just hurt.
Yeah, it was so hollow.
Yeah.
You know? But hopefully it turns out better than Zoolander 2.
Basically, if they're going to make a sequel, it's something I'm rooting for to be good, because I don't want to deal with it being bad.
For sure. Do you have any more thoughts, Max?
No. I can't really. I mean, we've touched on most of them.
Yeah, I think
it's a great movie, like we said. Go see it if you haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, watch it again.
Oh. So, given that, Max, where can the good people find us?
Well, you can find us tracking our favorite television stars at a Las Vegas convention.
Yep.
Or you can find us at thecriticalbreakdown.com and on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find me macking on some cute alien girl with a bob haircut who might have some tentacles. Or you can find me on Twitter at Max Rivera Film.
Oh, she has tentacles. You can find me watching the historical documentary series Gilligan's Island, or you can find me on Instagram at breakdown_Scott or Twitter. You won't hear from me there, but you can find me there.
You can just see that one time you tweeted about basketball.
Yeah. That's very accurate, sadly. Shoot us an email at podcast@thecriticalbreakdown.com. Let us know your thoughts on Galaxy Quest. You know what? Trekkies listening, let us know your thoughts on Into Darkness. Was Max right?
He might be.
Let us know.
Let us know.
Josh Rivera did our art.
Jason Brown did our music.
And Wally, podcast Alien.
And we're ashamed of ourselves because we haven't mentioned the full Grepthar's Hammer line, but
I sort of did.
You mentioned half of it, but we will still avenge you.
Yes, we will. Next week on The Critical Breakdown.
Are we watching The Departed?
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe go fuck yourself. We are. It's rated 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, good shit, man.
It's a line from the movie.